Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Stokastic Best Ball channel. I am Matt Savoca, and I'm here with my buddy Nick Lepre, and we are talking running backs today, specifically running backs that you find outside the top 12 in positional ADP. And this is the meat and potatoes of your draft. The mid rounds, the starter rounds, still very, very important players. And if I know anything about Nick, follow him at Notorious FNTSY. He is excited to talk about this. I never find a video he isn't excited to talk about the topic. So, how are you today, and how excited are you to talk about these backfields and these running backs today?
You know, it's funny. I'm actually not excited at all. I was very disappointed that we had to do this today. No, I'm only kidding. I am actually pretty excited to talk about the running backs today. I'm always excited. I love talking about fantasy football. I love talking about best ball. So, very excited today. And I hope that everyone in the comment section is having a good day. And let us know down below in the comment section how you guys feel about all of these questions that we're going to be answering today. Who is the running back that you would answer to all of these questions? It really helps us out when you comment. So you don't even have to comment that, actually. Just say hi. That'll help us too.
We like hellos. We like, tell us we're idiots. We can take it. We're here. We're ready for it. Give us a like as well. Subscribe to the channel so that you always know what we're up to. You hit that notification bell. We do a lot of live best ball drafts, and I've heard rumor that there's even some happy hour drafts coming down the pike. Maybe an appearance by our co-founder, Alex Baker. A little bit of a tease there, a little bit of a tease, but some really exciting stuff in the hopper here on the Stokastic Best Ball channel. Today, though, we are talking about mid-tier running backs, specifically players that we are betting on, especially in best ball, where we're planning on doing multiple drafts, maybe dozens of drafts in a specific tournament. So we don't necessarily have to make stands on one player all the time. This is just to give you an idea of how we're fitting players into categories within these mid tiers. So I'm going to pitch a couple questions to Nick. I'm going to have the answers for myself as well. It'll just give you a general idea of how we're looking at the mid tier running back landscape. You ready to get into this one, Nick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, first, this is simple. A player you really like, a player you're taking ahead of ADP. Obviously, not every draft. We're not 100% exposed to any player in any tournament, but a player that in general, you just think they are fundamentally mispriced in drafts this year.
Yeah, for me, there is one clear answer, and this has kind of been a guy that I've talked up all offseason. I've seen a lot of people that actually dislike this player, so it's pretty interesting to see how much my opinion changes or how different my opinion is compared to others. That is running back of the Arizona Cardinals, James Conner. I really believe that James Conner is going to dominate yet again. Chase Edmonds was there last year. Now, he didn't have this crazy role in the offense, but he was behind James Conner, stealing away some potential receiving opportunities because last year, James Conner only had 39 targets, which is 2.6 per game playing in 15 games. So if he sees an increased target total, then we can maybe see a little bit more consistency out of James Conner, and maybe he won't be as dependent on the touchdown total because last year he scored 18 total touchdowns, which is third at running back. That heavily elevated him to be a top 5 running back in fantasy football. He was running back 6 in half PPR points per game. I believe in 2022 that James Conner is going to be seeing more touches. He's going to get more rushing yards, and I believe he's also going to be seeing more targets and receiving yards. My only worry is that the touchdowns drop, but I think if he's getting more carries, more rushing yards and all that, it will kind of weigh him back down to safety, right? As if he doesn't score as many touchdowns. So James Conner, where he's going right now, is criminally underrated, as I think he could easily finish as a top 5 running back just as he did last season. And I expect this Arizona Cardinals offense to be very dangerous yet again. I think they're going to be a little bit more complete because last year started off on fire, shit the bed late. I think they're going to be very good all season long.
So there's our first debate right here because I am 4 spots below positional ADP on James Conner. And you and also our buddy Matt Gajeski have been all over Conner all offseason. So one group of us is going to be right for sure because Chase Edmonds is gone. That's the big thing for me. So I typically look at 18 touchdowns, say he's not scoring 18 touchdowns again, say he's going to regress, and don't pick him at ADP. This time around, there is a little bit of tentativeness anyway, but the pass catching role could be there in a way it hasn't been there for him since his Pittsburgh days. So Pro Bowler last year, really solid. You can get him outside the top 12 right now. I'm going to move a little bit down the board and say that I really like a bunch of young running backs who are going in the third or fourth round. I'm going to say three of them here. Little hedge, I realize, but Javonte Williams, Cam Akers, and David Montgomery are all players who are less than 4 years of league experience, each of them. And I know each of them have their respective warts on their profile. For Javonte Williams, he was incredibly efficient, but Melvin Gordon is back. Despite there being a new coaching staff, Melvin Gordon, when healthy, probably isn't going away. He was quite effective last year. It's his age 29 season, but Williams may not have the backfield to himself. He's a player in best ball I am taking chances on, even at running back 12 or 13, depending on where you're looking. Cam Akers is another one, incredibly inefficient when he came back from an Achilles tear after 6 months. Did you hear what I said the second half of that sentence? He came back from an Achilles tear after 6 months. This is incredibly good for his long-term outlook as a running back. The fact that he was able to play in the playoffs, not necessarily liking how ineffective he was, but you could say that he had a couple big plays called back by penalty. Obviously, he's not the only one who that happened to. Cam Akers is on a really, really strong offense. He can get him outside the top 15 running backs, and I happen to be 3 spots ahead of positional ADP. And then David Montgomery is a player who I just think the bad team discount has gone way too far. Other bell cow running backs on bad offenses go at the end of the second, beginning of the third. So why is David Montgomery going at like pick 45, pick 50? Because the Bears are that bad? Because Khalil Herbert played a lot when David Montgomery was down? That's just one I don't understand. I know the team he plays on means that he's likely going to be inefficient on a per touch basis, but the amount of opportunity, which is king in fantasy football, was there. Top 10 in expected fantasy points per game. That's enough for me to take the bet at 20th in positional ADP. Any feelings about those three? Are you way off on any of those three? I like these young running backs who are in the beginnings of the running back dead zone. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, I'm very out on Javonte Williams, and again, it has nothing to do with him. It's just all about the fact that Melvin Gordon's there. You don't just bring Melvin Gordon back. I understand there's a new head coaching regime, but that new regime brought in Melvin Gordon. They brought him back. I understand that he's a bit old, but it's not like 29. He's not ancient or something, right? He could still run the ball. Obviously, if Melvin Gordon gets hurt, then Javonte Williams could be a top 5 running back, right? There's no doubt.
No, 29 is ancient, and Gordon was amazing in college, but his time has passed. Even though I love Javonte Williams' talent. Number 8 in juke rate, that's evaded tackles per touch. Even though he was well outside the top 30 in opportunity share, he was number 6 in total evaded tackles last year. It's so on for Javonte Williams. I can't wait to raging debate this all off season long. Okay. How about this? Now we move away from the player versus player evaluations because clearly we're not going to decide anything today. But let's talk about offenses that are worth betting on. So we're talking about, based on where we are in the draft, how the draft is falling, we're betting on this situation more than we're betting on an individual player. Do any running backs come to mind when I talk about that for you?
Yeah, it would be the running backs of the Dallas Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott or Tony Pollard. You know this offense is going to be good. I know that Ezekiel Elliott struggled last year. He was still a top 10 running back in half PPR, running back 6, but that is like the most terrible number to look at, right? You don't need to look at the finish because he played in 17 games. In reality, when he was healthy, playing the whole season, he really was not that good. Running back 15 and half PPR points per game. But once he suffered those 2 injuries at the beginning of the season, everything went wrong. It appeared that Ezekiel Elliott went from having at least some type of push, some type of efficiency when running the ball, it just went out the window. Like, he did not look the same at all. He didn't have that same burst that he has now. Ezekiel Elliott isn't like the fastest guy alive, but you get what I'm saying. You could just tell that that was not the same Ezekiel Elliott from prior in the season, and somehow he just kept playing. They kept throwing him out there. He didn't look very good. Tony Pollard has some good games, and then you're kind of just in a shit situation because they're both healthy, or quote unquote healthy, because they're both playing, and then it's bad. But if Ezekiel Elliott becomes the lead running back on the Dallas Cowboys, which he is, if he's able to stay healthy, and those injuries did truly affect him, like he's been saying, like the team has been saying, then Ezekiel Elliott could potentially become a top 5 running back yet again in fantasy football. Do I have him ranked there? No, that's a little bit crazy. But when you're betting on an offense in the NFL that is as good in the regular season as the Dallas Cowboys, I would go ahead and think that's a great move. So I like Ezekiel Elliott this year. I think he's going to bounce back, even though I don't know if you can even call him a bounce back candidate because he was running back 6 last year.
I'm a little ahead of the field on Tony Pollard, a little bit behind on Ezekiel Elliott. I will take him when he falls. Matt Kajeski was quick to point out this offseason that he played on a torn PCL. The running back of the Dallas Cowboys played through a torn PCL. He appeared on one injury report. Say what you will about Ezekiel Elliott. The man is tough, but he was not healthy. And as you said, did not look like his typical self. Tony Pollard steps in. And just like I was talking about with Javonte Williams, the advanced metrics are chef's kiss for Tony Pollard. Number 5 in evaded tackles per touch. Number 2 in yards per touch. Number 7 in player profilers production premium. That's his efficiency compared to all other players at his position in the league. Yards created per touch after the yards blocked by the offensive line. Number 6 in the NFL. This dude was super efficient, and Elliott better watch it because Pollard is just #good. That's my opinion. The offense I'm betting on in the backfield where you don't have to pay a very high draft price for either player, it's Buffalo. I know this team is a pass-heavy offense. I just like teams that are going to be in the red zone a lot that have 2 quality players at the position. Now, I think Devin Singletary is a screaming value in drafts this year, but that doesn't mean I'm off of James Cook this year. A second-round pick on this offense. Yes, I think he's going to be a pass-catching specialist that might limit his overall upside, but injuries happen, and this offensive quality and the low price make this the biggest no-brainer in the world. I'm so often getting one of these 2 running backs when I'm looking for my second or third running back in the mid-rounds. I'm ahead on both players in ADP right now. I'm 3 picks above ADP for both. So I just really, really like the way this pans out, especially when you have to consider the fairly low draft capital. Devin Singletary sitting there at 31st among running backs in ADP. He was top 10 over the last 10 games of the season.
Yeah. I mean, earlier on in the offseason, they were right next to each other, Devin Singletary and James Cook a couple months ago. And Devin Singletary kind of pushed himself a little bit further. Now, there's not this crazy wide margin where it's like a 4-round discount on James Cook, but Devin Singletary has kind of pulled away. And to me, it makes perfect sense. I am also someone who's very high on Devin Singletary. I've been high on him all offseason. I understand that Devin Singletary has never really been this elite running back, but like you said, at the end of last season, things looked really good for him. And if you're going to hitch your kind of bank to anyone, should be the Buffalo Bills, right? Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. These are going to be 2 excellent offenses this season. The Buffalo Bills may be the best offense in all the NFL, and I believe still that Devin Singletary is going to be the lead back. I'm not as confident in James Cook as you, but I think he's going to have a role definitely to begin the season as probably the 3rd down back on the team.
Hey, that's enough for me, at least at the beginning, and the upside, especially in best ball, leaning into the uncertainty all over James Cook because of the situation. Move on here to the breakout candidate. This is a player who you will believe go in the top 3 rounds of fantasy drafts in 2023. So a player that we're underrating this year. Maybe it's because of injury, maybe it's because of uncertainty, but this is a player who has all the talent in the world and just needs that one extra push of opportunity. You think they're going to be a breakout?
Yeah, now the answer to this question is a bit confusing because I'm not too sure if this player will actually be a 3rd-round pick next year, but I do think he's going to break out, and that is Travis Etienne. Now, the reason why he might not be a top 3-round pick next year is because maybe James Robinson is healthy, and then they go back to this running back by committee. But this year, guess what? James Robinson got hurt deep down in the season. He has an injury where he's probably not going to be back for multiple weeks of the season, and Travis Etienne is put in the position to dominate. You've talked about this before, so I may have accidentally stolen your pick. I probably did. But what you said makes perfect sense. Urban Meyer was an idiot, but he somehow avoided the idiot. He somehow gets hurt and just, now you fast forward a year later, now he's in a better offense with a better system with Trevor Lawrence, who was the quarterback who most dumped the ball off last season. Trevor Lawrence, I understand he didn't have this great season, but he loves to throw the running backs. Travis Etienne, you all know who he played with in college, Trevor Lawrence. It makes perfect sense. Trevor Lawrence is going to dump the ball off to Travis Etienne. His receiving upside is immense. He is also a solid running back as a whole, right? He can run the football as well. So even though the Jacksonville Jaguars are not this great team, you don't need to be on a great team to dominate in fantasy football. We've seen it in the past with James Robinson and the same Jacksonville Jaguars team. So I think Travis Etienne is going to explode in 2022 and in a good way have an excellent season.
It's a great pick. It was my second pick I thought it was too easy But I'm glad you brought all those options out because I think Travis Etienne is going to be like a mid-second rounder next year.
Yeah.
I am very low on James Robinson. I love the player. I love the story, but not every player's Achilles recovery is like Cam Akers' Achilles recovery last season. I'm hoping for the best for him. Now, I'm going to go a little bit further down the board, and it's kind of funny because first rounders, even if they get hurt or they underperform, they have this first round NFL draft, first round shine on them for years. Cordero Patterson is still getting chances in his early 30s at running back, even though he was a first round wide receiver. And the corollary is also true. That late round or undrafted stench lingers on people's mind for a long time. And that's why I think people are underrating Elijah Mitchell in the San Francisco backfield. Yes, I know Trey Lance is taking over the backfield from the quarterback position. Trey Lance will run. Yes, I know that they are having huge success running with Deebo Samuel and even getting creative with players like Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. There are mouths to feed in this offense. But Elijah Mitchell, by all reports, has a stranglehold on the RB1 job on one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL. In expected fantasy points per game, he was running back 9, and right now he is running back 23 in drafts. And he performed well, 15 PPR fantasy points per game. This is a great player, in my opinion. And he was drafted in the 6th round, outperformed Trey Sermon in camp, and when Raheem Mostert went down, the first person they called is Elijah Mitchell. I know this team has a history of mixing things up in the backfield, but I just think we are completely underrating the upside of Elijah Mitchell. And maybe next year we'll finally figure it out.
Yeah, I like Elijah Mitchell a ton. I am just someone who has to avoid those mental gymnastics of thinking that maybe I will be the starting running back of the 49ers because that's just what happens. Some random guy you've never even heard of. Last year, everyone's talking up Trey Sermon. They're talking up Raheem Mostert. And guess who the running back was? It was Elijah Mitchell. The same thing could happen this year. You never really know with Kyle Shanahan, and that is what worries me. But in best ball drafts where you are just hunting for the most upside possible, I think that Elijah Mitchell is that upside guy, right? Because if he is the starting running back on a team that runs the ball that much, it's just a no-brainer that he would have probably close to a repeat season to what he did last year. Now, there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen there at running back, but I do think that Mitchell is the number one back on the team. And I agree with everything you said. I just think he is definitely very risky. But a lot of those running backs, outside of the top 12, there's a lot of question marks with them.
I would say there's cooks in the kitchen, but what do we really think of Jeff Wilson, Tyrion Davis-Price, JaMychal Hasty, and Trey Sermon? That's a subpar running back 2 and below group, in my opinion. So they actually need Elijah Mitchell to step up and be the bell cow. And this is a run-heavy team. Anyway, we digress. Honestly, guys, the best way to figure out your position on this player, or these players in general, really, head over to stokastic.com/best-ball. Stokastic.com/best-ball. We are running a promo right now where you can get weekly access to our best ball and fantasy draft kit for a week for $1. You use promo code PUPPY and you get the whole kit for $1. You see my ranks, you see Nick's ranks, you see Makajeski's ranks, and of course, the projections and rankings from players who have won millions of dollars in DFS. The same projection system that powers all of our DFS projections now brought over to the season-long and best ball space. Alex Osimo Baker, Steve the Colts Buzzard. Everything we do filters through their fantastic mathematical minds, and we've got everything you need in terms of underdog tournament rankings, underdog cash rankings, and if you haven't signed up over there, check out the banner below. Promo code Osimo will get you a $100 first match deposit bonus. It's such a good time to play over there, too. They've got the Puppy 2 tournament with a $5 entry fee, so you get up to 20 free entries if you take advantage of that promo code Osimo, or 4 free entries to their flagship tournament, the Best Ball Mania 3 tournament. $25 entry gives you 3 opportunities to win $1 million. $2 million to first place, $1 million to second, $1 million to the regular season champion. That's why we're doing these shows, guys. We really want somebody at the end of the year to show us that screenshot, showing that they were one of the $1 million winners. We have all the tools you need to take it down. Stokastic.com/best-ball. But here, it's even easier now. Stokastic.com/puppy. That's all you need. Stokastic.com/puppy will get you directly to our site's $1 promo. Easy as that. All right, we move on. A couple more topics to dig into on this running back day. So let's say you're going zero running back. We had a great show just this week talking about the zero running back strategy. We actually went through 2 drafts talking about our pick by pick ideas, our thought processes. Definitely check that out on the Stokastic Best Ball channel. But now let's dig into the running back position. It's the mid rounds, and it's finally time to pick that first one. Who's one of your favorite zero running back candidates?
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite ones, you've already talked about today's video, so I'll just say it real quick and then go into a different player. Devin Singletary. Again, I really do believe that he's going to be the lead back in Buffalo, and you are getting him not for free, right? But essentially free for where he should be going, in my opinion. My player is going to be Rashad Penny, running back of the Seattle Seahawks. Again, if you guys have been, used to be my YouTube channel. If you guys have been watching for years, you know that I hated Rashad Penny. I really believed that this guy was never going to do anything. For years, everyone gets down on their knees and they talk up Rashad Penny. And then for years, he does nothing. But last year, he showed me that if he is healthy, this guy is a legitimate starting running back in the NFL. Now, they draft Kenneth Walker, and people are going to piss themselves. They're going to get nervous. They're going to talk about a million different things. At the end of the day, I understand he's on Seattle. We just talked about it with the Jaguars. You can be a great running back on a team that is an absolute dumpster fire. I don't care if it's Drew Lock. I don't care if it's Geno Smith. Rashad Penny is talented enough to be able to put up numbers in this backfield. Last year, the team was getting absolutely torched at the end of the season, and when Rashad Penny was the number 1 back on the team, he was still playing well. I understand he also does not have this crazy receiving upside, but at the end of the day, he's still good enough to where his ADP is basically a slap in your face, and his ADP is telling you that Kenneth Walker is going to be the starting running back at some point in the season. And if I'm being honest with you, I think unless Rashad Penny gets hurt, I believe Kenneth Walker is riding behind him, and I think that Rashad Penny is going to be the guy all season long if he stays healthy. What do you think about that?
Now, you said this before, but what is the evidence there?
The evidence there on why he will be the guy?
Yeah, that you just think he's going to be riding the pine the whole year because he's a second round pick. Like, he's got
not
really
riding
solid. Yeah. I'm just interested. And also the fact that Rashad Penny gets hurt all the time. So the one caveat you said, unless he gets hurt every single year. Yeah, I'm glad he put it together. I like Rashad Penny at his price. I'm just, I don't hate the pick at all, but I'm kind of calling you out. Like, what is the belief there that they just don't use this second round pick at all?
Well, of course they're going to use him, but what I'm saying is that they're not going to use him in enough of a fashion that it's going to derail what Rashad Penny could do. Obviously, they're not going to draft some guy in the second round and just fucking let him sit on the bench all year, right? He's going to get touches, but the reason why I believe that Rashad Penny is going to be the guy is because we have seen year after year that head coach Pete Carroll does not care about draft position. He drafted Chris Carson. I don't even think Chris Carson got drafted, either that or he was a 7th round pick. And he was constantly playing ahead of Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny was a higher end draft pick. So now we have Kenneth Walker getting drafted in the 2nd round. Based on what I know about Pete Carroll, I don't really think he really cares about the fact that he used a 2nd round pick on Kenneth Walker or whenever he picked him. And I think that what he's going to do is use the best running back that I believe is going to help him.
So the counter argument might be Rashad Penny already lost a running back battle in preseason to a 7th rounder. And now there's a stud running back, a 2nd rounder, who can legitimately compete for the starting job. Now, I have Rashad Penny slightly ahead of ADP. I'm 2 picks ahead of positional ADP, so I like the pick. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here and saying that Ken Walker also has strong running back upside this year. And
I agree.
We also don't know what this team is going to look like with Drew Lock or Geno Smith. They lost the Baker Mayfield's sweepstakes, so I'm giving you a hard time. I'm ribbing you a little bit. Rashad Penny is a fine call, but I'm just mixing it up a little bit, showing the other side of things. I want to also talk about Miles Sanders because you are way below consensus on Miles Sanders. We actually 10 positional spots different on Miles Sanders, and he's my pick. Outside the top 24 running backs in positional ADP, so you have to pay a very low amount of draft capital for him. I think he's a starting running back in the league. I think he is solid as Ken Walker, prospect-wise, same second-round draft capital. And yes, the team wants to air it out more in Philadelphia, but Miles Sanders, I believe, is the guy there. Kenneth Gainwell's role kind of diminished over the second half of the season. It didn't increase. Honestly, I thought it was going to, but it didn't. Miles Sanders really seems like a value to me, and especially when you don't consider any running backs in the top 24, he's one of my favorites in the mid rounds.
Yeah, now again, my rankings have him, I believe, at running back 34. I still don't hate him, right? I'm fine taking him, but I'm just not that excited about a running back that has not excited me yet in his career. He's been a guy that people have talked up in the first 3 rounds the last couple of years. Never seen it, never drafted him there. Still not drafting him here really that aggressively, but he is a decent player. I just think Gainwell's involvement in the offense is going to be ticked up a little bit this year. I'm not too sure why they kind of stopped using him as much down the stretch. I think this year maybe they'll realize that he's a little bit better than they realized last year, I guess, because I think he's talented enough to see some time in the offense.
Yeah, it could really happen, obviously. We're talking about range of outcomes here, but I think Miles Sanders on an offense with Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith, with the threat of a rush from a quarterback. I mean, that's really the biggest thing, right? Does Jalen Hurts just rush so much that Miles Sanders gets his opportunities eaten away at from all sides? More passing volume, more rush volume for the quarterback. Suddenly, we're talking about a borderline running back 2 on his own team. Mm-hmm. But those are the chances I'm going to take in the mid rounds outside the top 24 running backs. I think we made some really strong arguments. And guys, if we had more certainty about these player situations, they would go in higher rounds, right?
Yeah.
That's why there's all this uncertainty and debate, because we don't know. That's the fun of the game here. Our last topic, as we dig in, we round the corner to about a 30-minute episode. Thanks for hanging out with us today. This is a player you are not touching at ADP. We've been mostly optimistic, little debate here and there today, but this is going to be our pessimistic side. A player who simply is going too high in drafts for you. Maybe you'll take them if they fall precipitously, but in general, you're not touching them.
Yeah, I'm basically done with Antonio Gibson. Now, I have him ranked as my running back 22. I just don't feel comfortable drafting him in most drafts. Like, I need to move him down because I just don't want him at all. Like, I've taken him a couple of times because at some point the hate gets too strong, right? If he's a 4th, 5th round pick, which I've seen in redraft mock drafts, you'd be an absolute buffoon to take him there. But there's drafts where he falls into the 8th, the 9th round. And then eventually, yes, I'm going to pull the trigger on Antonio Gibson because I think he's a good player. But Riverboat Ron has shown us nothing as to why he's going to go ahead and utilize Antonio Gibson as this workhorse lead running back. He's going to use multiple running backs. J.D. McKissic is going to vulture away a lot of targets. They bring in Brian Robinson, who's kind of a big boy who could potentially steal away some touchdowns. I'm just out on Antonio Gibson. I'm tired of Antonio Gibson. Another one of those guys, kind of like Miles Sanders, who I've never really been super excited about falling down the draft board. I'm just kind of sick of Antonio Gibson. And again, if he keeps falling like he is and he keeps going back in drafts, then you have to draft him, right? Because he's the starting running back on a team. You kind of know what his role is, but that role isn't mouthwatering, in my opinion. Carson Wentz is a step up from Taylor Heineke, but I'm just out on Antonio Gibson. What do you think about him?
I'm a little ahead of consensus. I think we are overvaluing the drafting of Brian Robinson. I know J.D. McKissic is there, and they fought to keep him because Buffalo was about to sign J.D. McKissic. So clearly Washington values McKissic's role in the offense. That is absolutely a wart on Antonio Gibson's profile this season. But in terms of third-round picks, I think Gibson is a sports car, and Robinson is like a truck. Right? Maybe he steals some goal line carries, but Brian Robinson had a great final season at Alabama. Nothing to scoff at. But despite the fact that he was competing with future NFL talent, I really don't like the fact that it took him 5 years. It took him until his redshirt season to get any playing time whatsoever at Alabama. Good on him for waiting it out. But I ultimately think that Gibson's role is larger than we realize. And again, it's another player outside the top 24 in running back ADP that I will take my chances on. I've said this to you in other shows. I like running backs who first week, first drive, first carry, who are they giving it to? Situations change in the NFL, but you also don't get that many chances at starting running backs outside the top 24. So I'm touching him at ADP. That's my point. Player I'm not touching, Damian Harris. I know the team likes to rush. I know the team likes to just kind of keep things boring, but I think Ramondre Stevenson is a better player. I think the offense is not strong enough in general So I do not need a running back who fails to catch passes on a non-explosive offense. I was impressed with Mac Jones' ability to control games, to not turn the ball over, to play steady. That's how the team overperformed expectations. But now with a harder schedule, I think it's going to be tough. Also, the division gets stronger, specifically Miami. I'm down on the offense. If I have to pick one player on there, it's Ramondre Stevenson. I'm 7 spots below positional ADP on Damian Harris.
Yeah, what's funny about Harris is I don't think I've heard a single person even talk about him this offseason. He might be the most boring player to draft in your fantasy football league. I was all about Damian Harris last year. He
Me
definitely
too.
was a good pick last year, right? Because he outperformed the ADP. But this year, with a backfield that's as crowded as New England, I think Damian Harris is going to be the lead back. I'm just not thinking that he's going to be like this crazy lead back where he is by far and away the best guy. And like you mentioned, he doesn't catch passes. The guy is fucking stone hands. So you really don't have any upside of that. And when we're talking best ball, underdog fantasy, that's half PPR. You definitely get a boost from these receiving running backs, and he just does not have that in him. And maybe if James White is fully healthy this year, James White throws even further of a wrinkle into this conversation. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think James White is talented enough. I understand he's also kind of getting up there in age that he's going to have some impact here if he does stay healthy. And these New England running backs, one of them is going to have a good season, but I'm just not overwhelmingly excited to draft any of them, if I'm being honest with you.
Very, very fair. This has been a lot of fun. The top 36 running backs, man. This middle part is always tough every single year. So I really like the debates going back and forth. These top 12 guys, there's a reason they're top 12. They should all be considered for your team. None of them are in bad situations. And this middle part, you can really start to pick apart. They have competition, they have issues, they have injury histories, they're on poor offenses. Every single one of them, as I've said, I think now 3 times on the show, every single one of them have warts on their profile. Nick, this is a whole lot of fun. Make sure you guys follow him at Notorious FNTSY. You can follow me on Twitter at Draftaholic. We will be back all draft season long, breaking down all things best ball, doing live drafts, and definitely check out some of our offerings early next week because maybe there's an appearance by Alex Osimo Baker in the works. Very excited. Nick, I will see you IRL next time we appear on one of these videos. Very excited to meet you. We are doing a little work shindig over the next few days. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until then, we will have all the content for you. He's Nick. I'm Matt. We'll see you guys later.